Hi, class. Today I want to review Unit 2, describe some of the goals of Unit 2, describe the Unit 2 project in a way that helps you know what's coming up ahead, right? So we just walked out of Unit 1, right? We just walked out of Unit 1. What did we learn in Unit 1? We learned about rhetorical stance. We learned about some specific genres, resumes, cover letters, and LinkedIn profiles. We learned about personas and how to write for specific audiences in a way that articulates your professional persona, but also meets the needs of that specific audience, right? So that was Unit 1. In Unit 2, we're shifting gears. We're going to be taking that information, all of those concepts, and we're going to pivot a bit. In Unit 2, we're going to analyze a specific genre for how to participate in a community. This specific genre for Unit 2 is a scientific report. How do scientific reports allow scientists to participate in the scientific community? That's going to be our primary goal for the next month. We're going to be examining reports for the choices scientists make when they're developing, their claims. We're going to assess and compare the topics and level of detail related to arguments as a way to know how to participate in a community. So that is touching on really the style and manner in which scientists deliver their claims, right? So we'll talk about this more when we read chapter 4, but scientists, whenever they make a claim, they tend to hedge what they're saying. So they don't make any hard claims normally, right? They don't say this is a fact and this is not a fact. They usually say something like it's probable that this is the case, right? So they're always being cautious about overstating their claims. And we're going to talk about why that is, right? Why are they getting into a certain level of detail? Why they're hedging certain claims, right? So that was the third goal. The fourth, we obviously want to review and develop our writing skills, uh, so that you can make deliberate choices about how you are leading readers through your arguments. So we're going to be analyzing a research report, but ultimately what you will be producing in Unit 2 is a paper which analyzes a scientific report of your choice. So, yeah, some supported readings. We're going to be reading a couple chapters from an older textbook. As well, you are going to choose a scientific research paper to analyze for Unit 2. I've included a link here to UMass Dartmouth library resources. You could quite literally type in any keyword there, science related, and not a million, that's overstating my claim here. You will find thousands of related science reports that you can analyze, right? I will note, so for our chapter readings, these readings are pretty old. It will frequently refer to parts of the textbook that we will not be reading, but the principles in these chapters are still pretty solid. So I will say I want you to read these chapters in good faith, but I'm not expecting you to get every granular detail. I want you to get really the bigger themes of these chapters. Okay? Now moving into the Unit 2 report. The due date for this report is April 4th, 2023. Hopefully between now and then, we will be able to scaffold our lessons in a way that for the last week, leading up to April 4th, all you have to do is revise your paper, right? So my goal is that by a week prior to April 4th, you'll already have a good draft of this paper, and all you have to focus on is revisions, right? This paper should be 900 to 1,000 words at minimum. I use the word report here in quotes because we're not writing a scientific report. This is where it could get a little confusing. We're analyzing reports, but we're also writing a paper about reports. So you can just structure it like any analysis paper that you would write for like an English class. Okay. So there are, I believe, 7 questions that I want you to answer in this report. So let's go through it. Does this report illustrate the genre conventions described in sections 4.3? Yeah, 4.3 through 4.7, or does it follow an alternative format? So give examples and compare the features. So we're going to be reading about scientific reports and the IMRAD structure. And based on what we learned in chapter 4, I want you to compare and contrast the conventions that we read about to what you're actually seeing in your report of choice, right? Secondly, when and how much do the authors explain and or justify statements in each section, and why are those explanations included, right? Give examples and quotes from the text to support your claim, right? So this is also touching based on the idea of hedging, which I had just discussed like a minute ago. How are they making claims? What kind of support are they using, etc. Right? When and how are citations used? So you'll notice that in a scientific report, there's usually an introduction that lays out the foundations of here's the problem, and it'll pull from a bunch of different reports and other scientific articles. How are they using citations, and what sources are they pulling from, right? 4, how is this report similar to or different from a report that you've written for your classes? Now, I know some of you are not science majors, so this may be interesting. You can compare, this type of writing to what you do in your major, if that's the case. And I guess something else I want to learn is how your analysis, is there anything from your analysis that you could take to writing future reports, whether it's science reports or elsewhere, right? Number 5, how does the form of the report reflect the goals, objects, or methods of the research in this particular field? So here we're really looking at the IMRAD format. What is the IMRAD format? We're going to learn that in chapter 4, but essentially it's a report that has an introduction, methodology, results, analysis, and discussion, right? So why are scientific reports structured that way? What is the purpose of that, right? We're gonna dive into that and analyze it. Question 6, what does your analysis tell you about the knowledge and expectations of your author's audience? So here we're interpreting who the author is talking to. What are the values of this audience? What are some of the established paradigms of this audience? And yeah, and 7, how does the author's awareness of the knowledge and expectations of this audience enhance the author's ethos? If it's a well-written report, it should obviously enhance the author's ethos, but how are they doing that? I want you to parse that out a bit. Okay, lastly, here are some expectations. Like I said, should be 900 to 1,000 words minimum. You should have an introduction that focuses my attention on the purpose of your analysis, conclusion that summarizes some of the key things that you learned from this unit. Third, each paragraph in your paper should have a strong claim supported by strong evidence, that evidence being paraphrased quotes from the research report that you're looking at and from the chapter. Lastly, citations. So I put APA here, but you could honestly use MLA, any other citation format that you think would work for this report. Honestly, I am just looking for the fact that you are crediting sources when it's appropriate, right? So that is all I have to say here. If you have any questions about Unit 2 or this report, please let me know. I'm happy to help. Yeah, so have a wonderful week, class. Stay gold.